I need to tell you something about comparison that nobody mentions when they're posting their highlight reels on social media. Something that changes everything about how you see success, progress, and your own life. Something that, if you understand it, will free you from the exhausting game you've been playing without even knowing you entered. Comparison is killing your happiness, and your unique journey is being destroyed by measuring it against everyone else's. Right now, you probably spend significant mental energy comparing yourself to others, their careers versus yours, their relationships versus yours, their bodies, homes, travels, accomplishments, lifestyles versus yours. You scroll through social media and feel inadequate. You see friends' successes and feel behind. You watch others achieve things and wonder what's wrong with you. You measure your progress against their progress and conclude you're failing. And the more you compare, the worse you feel. Because comparison is a rigged game where you always lose. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel. Your struggles to their successes, your beginning to their middle, your entire messy truth to their carefully curated presentation, and then concluding that you're not enough. But here's what nobody tells you. Comparison is not just inaccurate, it's destructive. It's not just making you feel bad, it's making you live wrong. Because when you're constantly measuring yourself against others, you stop living your actual life. You start living a response to others' lives. You make decisions based on what would look impressive compared to them. You pursue goals that would close the perceived gap. You try to win a competition that doesn't exist. And you lose yourself completely in the process. Because your unique journey, the path that's actually right for you, gets abandoned in favor of whatever journey seems most impressive when compared to others. Think about the decisions you've made because of comparison. The job you took because it sounded more impressive than another option. The purchase you made because others had similar things. The goal you pursued because it looked good compared to what others were doing. The path you followed because it seemed like the right path based on what successful people were doing. How many of those decisions were actually right for you? How many aligned with your actual values, desires, and circumstances? Or were they all just moves in a comparison game you didn't realize you were playing? Most people spend their entire lives playing comparison games, measuring themselves against others constantly, feeling inadequate when others seem ahead, feeling superior when others seem behind, constantly adjusting their paths based on what would look impressive in comparison, living entirely relative lives, never asking, what journey is actually right for me regardless of anyone else's journey? And they die having lived someone else's journey, having pursued someone else's definition of success, having made decisions based on closing gaps with people whose lives have nothing to do with theirs, having spent their entire existence measuring instead of living. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your journey is incomparable, literally. It cannot be compared to anyone else's because no one else has your combination of circumstances, abilities, desires, challenges, and opportunities. What's right for them cannot be right for you because they're not you. What's success for them might be failure for you because you have different definitions of success. What's fast progress for them might be normal for you. What's impressive to them might be unfulfilling to you. You cannot compare journeys that are fundamentally different, and every journey is fundamentally different, which means comparison is not just inaccurate, it's nonsensical. You're trying to compare things that cannot be compared, and then making life decisions based on those nonsensical comparisons. My name doesn't matter, but my comparison trap does. Because I spent 33 years living in constant comparison, measuring myself against everyone, making every decision based on how it would look compared to others, destroying my unique journey by trying to make it look like everyone else's, until I realized comparison was killing me. And my journey was mine alone, incomparable, and beautiful precisely because it was different, Today, I'm going to show you exactly how comparison is destroying your life right now. I'm going to reveal the specific ways I was trapped in comparison for decades. I'm going to share what happened when I stopped comparing and started living my actual journey. And most importantly, I'm going to give you the exact framework to escape the comparison trap and embrace your uniquely incomparable journey. But I need you to be ready for something uncomfortable. Stopping comparison means giving up the measurements you've used your entire life. Means defining success for yourself instead of in relation to others. Means accepting that your journey looks different and that different is exactly right. That's scary. Are you ready for that uncertainty? Are you ready to stop comparing? Are you ready to embrace your unique journey? Then let's begin. Because comparison is a trap and your journey is uniquely yours. And the sooner you stop trying to make them comparable, the sooner you can actually live. Let me take you to the moment I realized comparison was destroying my life. I was 33 years old, scrolling through social media before bed, feeling progressively worse with every post. A former classmate had just been promoted to executive. A friend had bought a beautiful house. An acquaintance was traveling through Europe. Another friend had gotten engaged. And with each post, I felt more inadequate, more behind, more like I was failing at life, not because anything was actually wrong with my life, but because compared to these curated snapshots, my life looked insufficient. I closed the app and lay in bed thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I so far behind everyone? Why is everyone else succeeding while I'm stuck? But here's what I didn't see. I wasn't actually behind. I was on a different path. Those people weren't ahead of me. They were on different journeys entirely. The comparison itself was the problem, not my life, not their lives. The act of comparing incomparable journeys. Let me show you the specific ways comparison had trapped me for 33 years. Because these are the same ways comparison is trapping you right now. Comparison trap 1. Career comparison creating wrong goals. I constantly compared my career to others. Friends who got promoted faster. Classmates who earned more. Acquaintances with more impressive titles. Every comparison made me feel behind. And I set career goals designed to close those perceived gaps. I pursued a management position not because I wanted to manage people, but because peers were becoming managers. I switched companies for higher salary not because I cared about the work, but because I was earning less than friends. I chased titles that would sound impressive in comparison, not because they aligned with my interests. Every career decision was about comparison, about catching up, about not seeming behind. And none of them were about what I actually wanted. I built a career designed to look good in comparison rather than a career that was actually right for me. This created a career that looked successful in comparison but felt empty in reality. Because success defined by comparison is always hollow. It's not success, it's just winning a comparison game. Comparison trap 2. Timeline comparison, creating artificial pressure. I compared my life timeline to others. Friends getting married at 25 made me feel behind at 30. Colleagues buying houses at 28 made me feel inadequate at 33. Acquaintances having children made me feel like I was missing milestones. I wasn't evaluating whether I wanted these things on my own timeline. I was just feeling pressure because others were doing them. The comparison created artificial urgency. I started pursuing relationship timelines and life milestones, not because I was ready, but because I felt behind in comparison. This timeline comparison made me rush things that shouldn't be rushed, made me pursue life events based on when others did them rather than when I was ready, made my entire life timeline a response to others' timelines rather than an expression of my own readiness. Comparison trap 3. Financial comparison creating wasteful spending. I compared my financial situation to others, friends' cars, homes, vacations, possessions. Every comparison made me feel like I should have more, do more, buy more. I bought things I didn't need because others had them, took vacations I couldn't afford because friends were traveling, upgraded possessions to match what others had. Not because I valued these things, but because the comparison made me feel inadequate without them. This financial comparison created debt and stress. I was spending money to close perceived gaps in comparison rather than spending on things I actually valued. My financial decisions were all about how they'd look compared to others, rather than whether they served my actual life. Comparison trap 4. Achievement. Comparison creating inadequacy. I compared my accomplishments to others, friends publishing books, colleagues winning awards, acquaintances starting successful businesses. Every comparison made my achievements seem insignificant. I had accomplished things, meaningful things, but when compared to others' accomplishments, mine seemed small, so I felt inadequate despite actual achievement. The comparison robbed me of satisfaction in my own accomplishments by always showing me someone who'd done more. This achievement comparison meant I could never feel successful. No matter what I accomplished, someone had accomplished more. The comparison created a treadmill of inadequacy where enough was always just beyond reach. Comparison trap 5. Social media amplifying all comparisons. Social media turned comparison from occasional to constant. Every scroll was an opportunity to compare. Every post was data about how others were doing. Every update was evidence that someone was ahead in some way. The volume of comparison opportunities was overwhelming. Before social media, I compared to people I saw regularly. With social media, I compared to hundreds of people constantly. The comparison trap expanded infinitely. There was always someone doing something that made me feel behind. And I knew intellectually that social media showed highlight reels, but knowing didn't stop the comparison. The dopamine hit of scrolling was stronger than the wisdom of not comparing. So I scrolled and compared and felt inadequate daily. Comparison trap 6. Success definition by others' standards. Because I was constantly comparing, I defined success based on others' standards rather than my own. Success meant having what they had, achieving what they achieved, looking impressive in comparison to them. I never asked, what does success mean to me? What do I actually value? What would make my life fulfilling regardless of how it compares to anyone else's? I just adopted others' apparent success markers as my own targets. This meant I was pursuing a definition of success that might not even align with my values. I was trying to achieve someone else's idea of a good life, rather than discovering what a good life meant to me specifically. Comparison trap 7. Forgetting my unique circumstances. Comparison made me forget that everyone has unique circumstances, different starting points, different resources, different challenges, different opportunities, different abilities, different desires. When I compared my progress to others, I ignored that their circumstances were completely different. Someone with wealthy parents had different financial opportunities. Someone naturally extroverted had different social advantages. Someone without health challenges had different energy levels. Someone with different interests had different motivations. But I compared as if we all started from the same place with the same resources, working toward the same goals, which was absurd. But comparison required ignoring those differences. Otherwise, the comparison wouldn't work. Comparison trap 8. Losing my actual journey. The cumulative effect of all these comparison traps was that I lost my actual journey completely. I wasn't living my life. I was living a response to everyone else's lives. Every decision was about comparison. Every goal was about closing gaps. Every achievement was measured against others' achievements. I didn't know what I wanted, independent of comparison. I didn't know what success meant to me. I didn't know what my unique journey should look like. Because I'd spent 33 years comparing and adjusting and comparing more, I'd never stopped to ask, what journey is actually mine? These 8 comparison traps, career comparison, timeline comparison, financial comparison, achievement comparison, social media amplification, others' success standards, ignoring unique circumstances, losing actual journey had created a life that looked okay in comparison but felt completely wrong in reality. Sitting in bed that night, feeling inadequate after scrolling social media, I had a devastating realization. I don't know what I want. I only know what I want relative to what others have. I don't know what success means to me. I only know I feel behind compared to others. I don't know what my journey should look like. I only know it looks different from theirs, and therefore wrong. I'd spent 33 years in comparison prison, and I'd lost myself completely. That realization was the beginning of breaking free. The day after my social media breakdown, I did something radical. I deleted all social media apps from my phone. Not temporarily, completely. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all gone. This wasn't a social media detox. This was comparison detox. Because I realized I couldn't stop comparing while constantly consuming everyone else's highlight reels. The comparison trap was sustained by constant exposure to others' curated lives. Removing that exposure was essential to finding my actual journey. The first week without social media was uncomfortable. I reached for my phone habitually. The apps weren't there, so I sat with the discomfort of not knowing what everyone else was doing, not seeing their updates, not measuring myself against their posts, and something strange happened. I felt lighter. The constant background noise of comparison quieted. The perpetual feeling of being behind decreased. Without the constant stream of others' accomplishments, I stopped feeling like I was failing. But I still didn't know what my journey should be. I just knew it shouldn't be defined by comparison. So I started a different process, discovering what mattered to me, independent of anyone else. Discovery 1, my actual values. I asked myself, what do I actually value? Not what should I value, or what do successful people value? What do I personally value? I wrote freely. And I discovered I value depth over breadth, meaning over money, time freedom over title advancement, close relationships over large networks, creative expression over conventional achievement, service over status. These values were completely mine, not taken from others, not designed to look impressive in comparison, just genuine reflection of what made my life feel meaningful. And here's what was shocking. Many of my current life choices contradicted these values. I'd been pursuing career advancement for titles when I valued meaning over status. I'd been chasing salary increases when I valued time freedom over money. I'd been building a large professional network when I valued deep relationships over quantity. I'd been living in opposition to my own values because those values didn't compare well to others' apparent values. My comparison-based life and my values-based life were completely different. Discovery 2, my definition of success. I asked myself, what does success mean to me specifically? Not what does it mean to society or to successful people I admire. What does it mean to me? I wrote my personal success definition. Success means doing work I find meaningful, having time for relationships and creativity, living within my means without financial stress, continuously learning and growing, contributing service to others, and feeling alignment between my values and my life. This definition had nothing about titles, salaries, possessions, or impressive achievements. It was about meaning, time, financial peace, growth, service, and alignment. All internal measures, nothing about comparison. And measuring my life against my definition rather than others' lives, I was actually more successful than I'd thought. I had work with meaning. I had good relationships. I was learning. I contributed service through volunteering. The only failures were failures of comparison. My actual life measured against my actual definition was pretty good. Discovery 3. My unique circumstances. I acknowledged that my circumstances were uniquely mine. I'd started my career later because I'd helped care for a sick parent. I earned less because I'd prioritized meaning over maximum salary. I wasn't married because I hadn't met someone right for me, not because I was behind. These circumstances weren't failures. They were my specific reality. My journey included these elements. And comparing my journey to someone with completely different circumstances was comparing incomparable things. I had advantages others didn't have, and disadvantages others didn't have. And my journey needed to be understood within my specific context, not measured against someone else's completely different context. Discovery 4. My actual goals. I asked, what do I actually want to achieve? Not to close gaps with others or look impressive in comparison. What do I genuinely want? I wanted to transition to work with more direct social impact. I wanted to develop writing skills and potentially publish. I wanted to deepen my closest relationships. I wanted to travel to places that interested me, regardless of whether they were trendy. I wanted financial stability without excessive consumption. I wanted more time for creative projects. These goals were mine. They wouldn't impress anyone in comparison. Some were modest by comparison standards, but they were authentic to what I actually wanted. And pursuing them would create a life I'd find fulfilling, regardless of how it compared to anyone else's life. Discovery 5. My timeline. I gave myself permission to move at my own pace, not the pace others moved at, not the pace that would close comparison gaps. My actual pace, based on my readiness and circumstances. Maybe I'd transition careers at 35 when others did it at 28. Maybe I'd start a family at 38 when others did it at 26. Maybe I'd buy a home at 40 when others did it at 30. All those timelines were fine because they were my timelines based on my readiness, not comparison timelines based on feeling behind. This permission to move at my pace was liberating. I'd been rushing to catch up, trying to hit milestones on others' timelines, creating pressure that made me move before I was ready. Giving myself permission to move at my pace removed all that artificial pressure. Over the next 2 years, I made decisions based on my values, my definition of success, my unique circumstances, my actual goals, and my timeline. Not based on comparison. I transitioned to a nonprofit job that paid less, but provided the meaning and social impact I valued. This looked like going backward in comparison to people climbing corporate ladders, but it was forward on my journey. I started a personal writing practice, not because it would lead to publication or impress anyone, but because I valued creative expression. This didn't compare to anything, it was just mine. I invested deeply in 3 close friendships rather than expanding my network. This looked small in comparison to people with extensive networks, but it aligned with my value of depth over breadth. I traveled to places I was curious about rather than destinations that would look impressive in photos. This created experiences that mattered to me regardless of how they'd appear on social media I no longer used. I created a life that made no sense in comparison to anyone. My career path looked unconventional. My lifestyle looked modest. My achievements looked small. My timeline looked slow. But for the first time in my life, I felt aligned. My life reflected my actual values. My choices served my actual goals. My timeline matched my actual readiness. I wasn't living in comparison to anyone. I was living my actual journey. And the comparison-based inadequacy disappeared. Not because I'd caught up or closed gaps, but because I'd stopped comparing. I'd accepted that my journey was mine alone, incomparable. And I'd stopped trying to make it look like anyone else's journey. After freeing myself from comparison and claiming my unique journey, I developed what I call the journey claiming framework. This is the system that helps you escape comparison trap and embrace your incomparable path. The framework has 7 components, and each one is essential. Component 1, the comparison audit. You need to identify specifically how comparison is affecting your life, where you're making decisions based on comparison rather than authentic choice. The practice. Complete these prompts multiple times. I pursue X because it looks good compared to others. Example. I pursue career advancement because it looks impressive compared to friends who've been promoted. I feel behind when I compare my X to others' X. Example. I feel behind when I compare my financial situation to friends who own homes. I make decisions about X based on what others are doing. Example. I make decisions about relationships based on when others are getting married. I judge my success by comparing my X to others' X. Example. I judge my success by comparing my achievements to others' visible accomplishments. Write at least 15 examples. Get all comparison-driven behavior visible. My audit revealed 21 areas where comparison was driving my decisions and emotions. 21 ways I was living in response to others rather than living my actual life. Component 2, the values clarification. You need to identify your actual values independent of comparison or others' apparent values. The practice. Answer these questions. What do I actually value in life? List values without judging whether they're impressive. When do I feel most fulfilled, regardless of how it looks to others? Identify authentic fulfillment moments. What would I prioritize if no one else would ever know about my choices? This removes the comparison element. What matters to me that doesn't matter to most people? Identify your unique values. Write freely. Your values might include things like depth over breadth, meaning over money, time over achievement, service over success, creativity over career, experiences over possessions, relationships over recognition. These are your values, not aspirational values, not values that sound good, actual values that genuinely guide what makes your life feel meaningful. My values, meaning over money, time freedom over titles, depth over breadth, service over status, creativity over conventional achievement, alignment over advancement. Component 3, the personal success definition. You need to define success for yourself specifically, independent of anyone else's definition. The practice. Complete this statement. For me, success means. Write your specific definition, not society's, not others, yours. Include only measures that reflect your values. Avoid including anything just because it's what successful people have. Be ruthlessly honest about what would make your life feel successful to you, regardless of comparison. Example, for me, success means doing work I find meaningful, having strong relationships with people I love, having time for creative pursuits, living without financial stress, continuously learning, contributing service, and feeling alignment between my values and my life choices. This definition becomes your measurement, not others' journeys, your definition. Component 4, the circumstance acknowledgement. You need to acknowledge your unique circumstances that make your journey incomparable to others. The practice. List your unique circumstances that affect your journey. Starting point. Where you began financially, educationally, geographically, socially. Resources. What advantages and disadvantages you have. Challenges. What obstacles specific to you. Opportunities. What unique opportunities you have or have had. Abilities. What you're naturally good at and what's harder for you. Desires. What you actually want versus what others want. Write honestly. This isn't excuse making. It's reality acknowledgement. Your circumstances are your circumstances. Comparing your journey without acknowledging your unique circumstances is comparing incomparable things. My circumstances. Started career late, due to family care obligations, lower income by choice for meaningful work, different relationship timeline due to specific history, introverted personality affecting social path, creative interests not shared by most. These circumstances made my journey mine, incomparable to others with different circumstances. Component 5, the authentic goal setting. You need to set goals based on what you actually want, not what would look impressive in comparison. The practice. For each life area, ask, what do I actually want in this area, regardless of what others have or are doing? What would fulfill me here, even if it wouldn't impress anyone? What goal reflects my values rather than comparison? Example, career. Instead of get promoted to senior management because peers are advancing, authentic goal might be transition to work with direct social impact, even if it pays less and has less impressive title. Example, lifestyle. Instead of buy a house because friends are homeowners, authentic goal might be live simply with flexibility and minimal possessions because I value freedom over accumulation. Set goals that are yours, that serve your values, that create the life you want regardless of how it compares to anyone else's life. Component 6, the comparison elimination strategy. You need to actively reduce comparison opportunities while building your authentic journey. The practice. Eliminate or reduce comparison triggers. Social media. Delete apps or dramatically reduce usage. Social media is comparison amplifier. Comparison conversations. Reduce time with people who constantly compare and compete. Status tracking. Stop monitoring others' achievements, timelines, and possessions. Envy triggers. Identify what consistently makes you feel comparative envy and avoid those triggers. This isn't avoidance. It's creating space to build your journey without constant comparison noise. I eliminated social media completely, reduced conversations about career competition, stopped following others' achievements, created space where my journey could emerge without constant comparison input. Component 7, the journey celebration. You need to celebrate your actual progress on your unique journey rather than measuring against others. The practice. Keep a journey journal documenting. Progress on authentic goals. Movement toward what you actually want. Values alignment. Moments when your choices aligned with your values. Unique achievements. Accomplishments that matter to you regardless of comparison. Journey learning. What you're learning about your path. This journal celebrates your actual journey, your progress, your growth, without any comparison to others. These 7 components create a complete system for identifying comparison's grip on your life, clarifying your actual values and success definition, acknowledging your unique circumstances, setting authentic goals, eliminating comparison triggers, and celebrating your incomparable journey. Now you understand how to escape comparison and claim your unique journey. Let me give you the exact action plan to start today. Action 1. Complete your comparison audit this week. Use all 4 prompts. Write at least 15 examples of where comparison drives your decisions and emotions. Get all comparison-driven behavior visible. Action 2. Take a social media break starting today. Delete apps from your phone for at least 30 days. Not a temporary detox, an actual break. Social media is comparison amplifier. You cannot escape comparison while constantly consuming others' highlight reels. Action 3. Write your values clarification. Answer all 4 values questions. What do you actually value? When do you feel fulfilled? What would you prioritize if no one knew? What matters to you that doesn't matter to most? Write your actual values. These become your guidance system. Action 4. Create your personal success definition. Complete. For me, success means. Write your specific definition based on your values, not anyone else's definition. This becomes your measurement instead of others' journeys. Action 5. List your unique circumstances. Write what makes your journey specifically yours, your starting point, resources, challenges, opportunities, abilities, desires. Acknowledge your journey's unique context. This makes comparison obviously nonsensical. Action 6. Set one authentic goal this week. Choose one area of life. Ask, what do I actually want here, regardless of comparison? Set a goal that's authentically yours, even if it wouldn't impress anyone. This starts building your actual journey. Action 7. Identify your biggest comparison trigger. What makes you compare most intensely? Specific person, specific platform, specific situation. Identify it. Then, eliminate or reduce exposure to it. Create space where your journey can emerge. Action 8. Start your journey journal. Get a notebook. Title it My Journey. Document weekly progress on authentic goals, values, alignment moments, achievements that matter to me, journey learnings. Celebrate your actual progress without comparison. Action 9. Practice values-based decision-making. This week, make at least one decision based purely on your values rather than how it would compare. Choose the option that aligns with what you actually value, even if it wouldn't look impressive. Action 10. Write your comparison freedom statement. Write, I release the need to compare my journey to anyone else's. My circumstances are unique. My values are mine. My definition of success is personal. My timeline is my own. My journey is incomparable. Different is exactly right. I celebrate my unique path. Read daily. Action 11. Find one person living authentically. Research someone who clearly lives according to their own values rather than comparison. Study how they made authentic choices despite comparison pressures. Use them as example that authentic journeys work. Action 12. Reduce comparison conversations. When conversations turn to comparison and competition, redirect or disengage. Don't participate in comparison conversations. Protect your mind space from comparison inputs. Action 13. Celebrate one comparison-free accomplishment. Identify something you've achieved that matters to you regardless of how it compares to anyone. Something that reflects your values. Celebrate it purely for what it means to you. Practice comparison-free celebration. Action 14. Schedule monthly journey reviews. Once per month, review. How much am I comparing? What authentic progress have I made? What values-aligned choices have I made? What is my journey becoming? This keeps you accountable to living authentically. Action 15. Commit to your unique journey. Write, I commit to living my unique journey rather than responding to others' journeys. I commit to values-based decisions rather than comparison-based decisions. I commit to defining success for myself. I commit to moving at my pace. I commit to celebrating my incomparable path. Comparison is a trap. My journey is mine alone. And that's exactly right. Sign it, date it. Now, some of you are thinking, but some comparison is healthy. It motivates me. Without comparison, how do I know if I'm doing well? How do I set standards? Here's my answer. There's a difference between inspiration and comparison. Being inspired by others' achievements while pursuing your authentic path is healthy. Constantly measuring yourself against others and feeling inadequate is comparison trap. You know you're doing well when your life aligns with your values and your definition of success, not by comparing to others. Standards come from your values, not from others' achievements. Set standards based on what you want for your life, not on closing gaps with others. Let me tell you where I am now, 7 years after I escaped comparison trap. I'm 40 years old. I work at a nonprofit making less money than corporate friends, but doing work aligned with my values. I'm unmarried on my own timeline rather than society's. I live simply in a small apartment while friends own homes. I have 3 deep friendships rather than a large network. I write regularly, though I've never been published. I travel to places I'm curious about rather than destinations that would photograph well. By comparison standards, my life looks modest, small, behind, unconventional, not impressive. But by my standards, my values, my definition of success, my authentic goals, my life is exactly right. I wake up feeling aligned. I make decisions that reflect what matters to me. I move at my pace. I'm living my journey, not responding to anyone else's. 7 years ago, I was 33 and trapped in comparison. Every decision driven by how it would compare, every emotion affected by others' apparent success, constantly feeling behind. Building a life designed to look good in comparison rather than a life that was actually good for me. Today, I'm 40 and free from comparison. Not because I've caught up, but because I've stopped comparing. I've claimed my unique journey. I've accepted that different is exactly right. Here's what I learned. Comparison is not just inaccurate, it's destructive. It kills authentic living. When you're constantly comparing, you can never live your actual life. You're always living a response to others' lives. Your journey is incomparable, not because you're special, but because every journey is incomparable. Everyone has unique circumstances, values, abilities, desires, and timelines. What's right for someone else cannot be right for you because they're not you. 7 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted independent of comparison. I only knew I felt behind. I didn't know what success meant to me. I only knew I felt inadequate compared to others. I didn't know what my journey should look like. I only knew it looked different and therefore wrong. Today, I know exactly what I want. I have clear values that guide me. I have a personal success definition I measure against. I understand my unique circumstances. I'm living my actual journey regardless of how it compares to anyone. Right now, you're probably trapped in comparison, scrolling social media and feeling inadequate, seeing others' successes and feeling behind, making decisions based on how they'll compare rather than whether they're right for you, building a life designed to look good rather than a life that is good. But you can escape. You can audit your comparison, delete social media, clarify your values, define success for yourself, acknowledge your unique circumstances, set authentic goals, eliminate comparison triggers, celebrate your journey. It won't be instant. Breaking comparison addiction takes time. It won't make you immune to comparison feelings, but it will give you the tools to recognize comparison and choose authenticity instead. 7 years ago, I chose to stop comparing and start living, to stop measuring against others and start building my actual journey, to stop trying to make my incomparable journey look like everyone else's. My life transformed completely, not because my circumstances improved, but because I stopped judging my circumstances by comparison. I started living for myself rather than in response to everyone else. Comparison is killing your happiness, destroying your authentic journey, making you live wrong. Every decision based on comparison is a decision against your authentic self. Every time you measure yourself against others, you lose connection to your actual life. But you can stop today. You can delete social media, stop comparing, clarify your values, define your success, claim your journey, live authentically. Your journey is uniquely yours, incomparable, different from everyone else's. And that difference is exactly right. Not something to fix or catch up on, something to embrace and celebrate. 7 years ago, I was imprisoned by comparison. Today, I'm free, living my incomparable journey, Stop comparing. Start living. Your journey is yours alone. And that's exactly how it should be.